Cheers. Delicious. Thank you to Lillian for making cookies. And saving me a couple. Evening, everybody. How's it going? It's not Sunday, but I was watching Loading the Cannon, Mr. Colin Blanchette's video. He just posted one, I don't know, 5 hours ago or so now, 6 hours ago, where he was looking at the Previews magazine. And for the first time in a long time, it makes me want to buy Previews to check it out. So shout out to him. If you're not subscribed, which there's barely anybody subscribed, I'm disappointed. You need to subscribe to Loading the Cannon. You got to watch his videos. So I thought I'd just kind of catch up on a couple of things that I've read lately, and just kind of a couple of things that I've picked up. It hasn't been a ton of reading these days, but I am starting to dig through some stuff. Let's see. Talked about that. So a couple of things that I've picked up recently. I haven't dug into these yet. Thanks, as usual, to the Winnipeg Comic Addicts. There's this 4-issue miniseries, Thessaly, Witch for Hire. So it's the Sandman Presents by Bill Willingham and Sean McManus. I've said it a million times before, and I'll say it again. Some of these Vertigo miniseries, especially some of the local guys that are selling stuff, they usually sell these for dirt cheap. So I'm always curious to pick that stuff up. It's hard to say no when it's that cheap. And then I think this was before. Let's have a look. So this was from 2004, and then I guess before that, the same creative team did. I think that says the Thessaliad, I believe, is what that says, and that was a 4-issue miniseries as well too. And this is from 2002, so this came first out of them. And again, Sandman Presents with some different cover art. Dave McKean cover art, no less. Interesting. I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have picked that out as Dave McKean. So another 4-issue miniseries. Haven't dug into either of these yet. Plan to pretty darn quick. These do not show up. I think it was a 3-issue miniseries. I had the first issue, and I just found issue number 2 of Gilbert Studios and Tundra Publishing present Michael T. Gilbert's Mr. Monster Attacks. These Mr. Monster, they're always in the dollar bins. I've got a whole bunch of stuff from Pacific and Eclipse and wherever else they were published. So some of the Mr. Monster titles, they focus on kind of reprints of whether it's like old sci-fi and horror strips or stories. This one, the second issue is much better than the first issue. I don't know if I'll ever find the third issue itself. So, I mean, the first thing is like the cover stock that they use for this is really amazing. We get a Bernie Wrightson and Michael T. Gilbert back cover there. So the stern character with Mr. Monster. So that's pretty good. This one's neat. It has a couple of, it's not reprints. So it's a couple of more modern creators. This first one was probably the most surprising. So we get some Bob Supina. Recognize the style. I can't say the name jumps out at me at all. And then what we get here, which is one of the first things that caught my attention, is who would you guess that art is? I bet you wouldn't have guessed Sam Keith, because I sure as fuck didn't. I'm not sure what's going on here with this. That style is something. It's almost like that first page, there was something missing from it, or I'm not really sure the backstory on this, but it starts to change as it goes through. So I wonder, I don't know the story. I'm very curious. Fun enough story, nothing mind blowing. None of the stories in here are really mind blowing stuff. They're entertaining enough, but it's great to see some Sam Keith that. I mean, parts of it look like Sam Keith, like that looks like Sam Keith, but the rest of it really, really doesn't. So that's kind of great to see. This second story was pretty entertaining. So artwork by Bob Donovan, script and layout by Scott Deschênes, and there's a copyright of 1992 from Discovery Comics. This is a tale of monster love with Monsters Night Out, and this was pretty fun. Going off to work and dealing with the kids and messing up the house and spraying up cobwebs, and they're going out on a date night. And what else would Monsters Date Night be but running to houses to scare children, rocking a boat out at the ocean, sitting on top of a skyscraper, eating planes, etc. So pretty entertaining. And what else do we get? We get a Mr. Monster fake movie poster. So yeah, pretty good overall. A nice little score. A couple of pages of letters. Art and story by Michael T. Gilbert on this last story here, and that kind of wraps up the issue. So I think Mr. Monster is always, if it's cheap enough, I think it's always worth picking up. It's nice to see what kind of pops up in these comics there. Onto a couple of things that I read before we kind of end off on the thing that I read that kind of was the hit of the pile. So again, $1 book, Sacrifice Trees. I think there was 3 issues of this from Mansion Comics, featuring Zachariah, Donovan Crane, and Scorpio Factor 9. Mature readers, there's a lot of kind of religious undertones to these stories, and I wonder what Mansion Comics was all about, if it was kind of publication from a church or a religious organization. There's nothing really that talks about that from what I remember. But it is signed for all that's worth. You know, those rare signatures of David. What the heck is his name? David Watkins. So, you know, all those people out there clamoring for an authentic David Watkins signed book. Fuck you, I've got it. And then on the second story, it's an interesting enough. It's interesting enough for this kind of. This is what 92-ish or something, I think is what I said. Black and white kind of comics. It's nothing that you need to run out to get. One of the things that I do enjoy is kind of these introductions. For the last 2 stories, they've got this kind of 1-page introduction to the main character that's in the next story. So I kind of like that. They're really just trying out some different characters to see what sticks, but none of them honestly are memorable whatsoever. But I find these really nice to kind of read every once in a while. They're usually fun enough. I like the idea of these self-publishers just really putting their heart and soul into a couple of comics or whatever it is that they manage to get out in a short period of time. So they're kind of nice to just sit back and turn off your brain and just flip through and look at some very unique art. But by no means do you need to rush out and get this one unless you like boobs. Then you probably need this one. So yeah, there you go. There's some of that there. Sacrifice Trees #1. There's the back cover on that one. I think it was a dollar book in the auction that I bought a couple of books in. One that's popped up a couple of times on this Facebook group that I always just seem to miss. It's usually at a buy it now price. And for some reason, I'm never around quick enough. And it's one of those that's eluded me for quite a long time. It's Twisted Tales 3D from I can never remember. Is it Blackthorn? Yeah, Blackthorn Publishing. Twisted Tales had Pacific, and I think did Twisted Tales also blend into Eclipse? I'm not so sure about that. I love 3D comics. I'm a big fan of this old blue and cyan, or cyan and magenta, rather, 3D books. I think they're a blast. As much as it bothers your eyes sometimes, they're genuinely really well done as far as the 3D goes. The added bonus in this one is the first story is called Terminated, and it's a Corbin story. Is it written by Corbin as well? Yeah, story and art by Richard Corbin. So that's pretty great, getting a Corbin story that I didn't recognize when I read it, so I'm not sure if it appeared anywhere else other than here. So really just quick 3-pager, and I think his art, the 3D on this one was pretty fantastic. It really worked nicely as they have this zombie that they've blown away, and then for the clincher, Hawkins Junction water supply. The corpse has fallen into their water supply. This panel up here was really good in 3D. The layers were done really nicely. So that was a really nice surprise. And then this second one by an artist that I'm not familiar with, or the name doesn't jump out at me. Story by Bruce Jones and art by Tom Enriquez. And it's called Way Down There Below in the Dark. Really, really great little story. Almost two different styles. I mean, I understand that you're probably not really seeing too much there because of this 3D effect, but trust me, it's really great. A really nice little story, very simple, nothing super complex, but it's almost like he has a couple of different art styles. There's kind of a Basil Wolverton kind of thing going on. There's a Corbin-esque quality to some of the faces, like this one up there. And there's a real kind of cartoony feel to some of it as well, especially with this kid who's kind of the main character in the story. There's this very cartoony feel to it, so it matches really nicely. I won't go into too much detail about the book itself. Let's see if we can find something else. No, nothing else that I mean, you're not going to be able to make out too much because of this 3D stuff, but trust me, it was a good one. The last two, unfortunately, didn't do anything, and the biggest issue with the last two stories. So this third story is called First Impressions, art and story by Bruce Guice, Guice. There's so much text in here. 3D is so hard on your eyes anyway, or sometimes in these books it can be really hard on your eyes. And you expect me to read this much fucking text? You're out of your mind. I made it about halfway through that paragraph, maybe even less. And I pretty much gave up and just ended up flipping through the rest of the story just to kind of see the 3D and see the art. But this entire story is just so incredibly text heavy that I don't know what they were thinking. And I think that's probably why a guy like Corbin works really well, because his storytelling is pretty minimal, even when he's working with other people. I mean, it can get a bit dense for sure, but especially the stuff that he wrote, he really just kind of strips it down. You get the gist of it. And then the final story by Bruce Jones, art by John Tottleben. Did this have the same issue? No, it didn't, because this was mostly silent, wasn't it? Yeah, this one was all silent, actually, just a 2-pager. Really nice art. The 3D looked great. And then finally in this one is You Illusion, story by Bruce Jones, art by John Bolton. Again, one that was a little text heavy, so I don't know how far I even made it into this one as far as reading it went, but there you go, a little kind of skull in the background almost there, which is a pretty good effect there. Yeah, so I mean, the 3D books are a hit. I'm glad to finally have a copy of this one. Like I said, I've been looking for it forever. It's not one that pops up too often. The 3D glasses weren't in it, but I've got so many of these damn books at this point. And I have a couple of extra pairs of 3D glasses as well too, so managed to sort that out. And then the final one I wanted to talk about. Did I have something else here? No, not really. It's all stuff I've talked about before. I mean, I'm still going in on The Cull, and it's still a great book, and a couple of the magazines, but I think I've talked about the magazines already. So the final one I wanted to talk about tonight was, again, something that popped up in the previews video that Colin Blanchette just did. There's, I guess, hardcover. I think he said it was hardcover. Anyway, hardcover reprints of Charlie's War coming out. And he was saying that he had those versions already. So I'm guessing that this is a second print. So I managed to pick up the Titan edition, which is the soft cover kind of style that they did, like they did the Modesty Blaze in the same format as well. Didn't know anything about this. It wasn't something that was on my radar. This is by Pat Mills and Joe Colquhoun. Your guess is as good as mine. There's the names there. That appeared in, was it Battle magazine? Looking, because they threw in some, Battle Action. They threw in some ads from them where they were advertising Charlie's War in it throughout this. Man, was I ever impressed with this. This was really, really fucking good. Like, really good. Mills had been asked to write a story, and he kind of did this story set in World War I in the trenches. This first story revolves around the Battle of, and again, I apologize for my pronunciation, the Battle of Somme, I believe. Is it Somme or is it Somne? Anyway, I'm sorry for that, but holy crap, is this ever good? This really, I don't know. Again, it's sometimes what happens with the writing in a comic that kind of creates this magical combination where you get this. I believe he's supposed to be 16 years old, 16, 17 years old. Our main character, Charlie, he enlists and doesn't end up telling his family. There's a lot of the story that's told through letters, either him writing letters to his family, be it his mother, his father, his brother, or getting letters from family members, just kind of telling him about what's going on. But they've kind of, oh, hello, loading the cannon. The newest version is 3 fat soft covers. Beauty. So that's good. I'm absolutely going to look for those because I loved this. Really great stuff. Hello, Damien. How's it going? So it's their life in the trenches as they're waiting to go over the top. And just kind of relationships that they have. There's a couple of good, let's see if we can find one of the pages. Man, it's really impressive shit. So you get this sense of this little community that they have. It's almost like this little town to some degree where they've dug out these trenches and they have, they're just standing by and kind of enduring bombing and poking their head out every once in a while. There's some pages there. But I just found the storytelling really engaging. Is it doing anything that's really mind-blowing? I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I think it works so well. And for the most part, the thing that also is impressive is while there's like humor injected in it with some of the characters, they really don't pull any punches when it comes to the violence as well too. There's some pretty intense moments in this, especially as they're all hyping each other up to kind of climb out of their trenches and attack. And they've been given this information that the wires of the barbed wire has been taken out, and they're going to be leading this battle that's supposed to happen at dawn. So the night before, they're really just getting ready to die and kind of talking to each other, and what they want on their gravestones, and having these very, very frank conversations with each other about this is it, this is our last meal, and you can't back out, and you've got to commit, and we're all here for the same thing. And man, is it good. It really, really good. And I found the art really engaging as well too. Like, it was one of those stories that once you got into it, I was sold on the world. I was sold on the characters. I would absolutely read some more. I guess Mills was equally as surprised when this first story kind of got the traction that it did, because again, he really showed kind of the ugliness of war, right? So yeah, recommended. So those soft covers, those 3 soft cover volumes, um, if you're curious, and if they're affordable, and if it's something that you have the extra bucks for, I would strongly encourage you to pick it up. This is the only thing that I've read. I know that creators kind of changed as the story was going on. Obviously, I can't speak to any of that, but this is a very, very strong beginning. Um, yeah, I mean, these Titan volumes are really great, and just stuff that's completely off my radar. Uh, Pardon me, excuse me, over here in Canada. So it's nothing that I've heard of, like I said, but it was too good to pass up, and nobody else wanted it, so I jumped on it. He had some Judge Dredd as well too, like these soft cover ones. Um, I'm not as interested in the Judge Dredd stuff. The only thing that I have is a Judge Anderson book, or did I sell that one? I might have traded that one away, actually. That was the stuff that I enjoyed a lot more than the Judge Dredd stuff. But the thing is, some of the creators, Mike McCann, Carlos Esquera, like they're fantastic artists. So I almost regret passing on him. Maybe I'll contact him and see if he's still got them. So that's my kind of recommendation of the past couple of weeks. The thing that I've read. I was just gonna sit and dip into this, but I was just not focusing. Marvel Preview, Masters of Terror. I think it's 3 really long stories in here. The art didn't jump out at me, so I really found it difficult to sit and want to focus. Cody Starbuck ad on the back cover there. And then the other thing that I picked up the other day was it's a monster movie magazine, which I knew picking up, but I couldn't resist. This is All New Monster Fantasy. I think it's issue number 2. I love that cover. So there isn't a single comic in here, but I really like that logo treatment, and I loved the cover design on here. So it's exactly what you'd expect by looking at this cover, kind of the classic horror movies, starring the Mummy and Dracula and etc. Right? So yeah, cheap. Gonna tell you, picked it up because of the cover. I think that's it. Oh, I did dip into a Eric Son of Thunder. I just read this one. I'd got 2 issues, picked up 2 issues. The art in this one was great. I really enjoyed it, but the story just really didn't do much for me. There was nothing there that really kind of drew me in. I only bought the 2 issues, so I'll give the second one a read. It's just after the first one. It kind of went over in a pile over there, and I didn't really touch it. So there's nothing, like, once I finished this story, it was kind of like, I could let that slide for a little while. I feel like there might have been something else that I read. Oh, this was something else I picked up too. Vintage Pre-Code Horror from Asylum. called Vampires. I haven't dug into this yet either. Blood-sucking tales of terror. So yeah, there's a few things that have come out. I went to visit my comic shop that's around the corner from my office, and unfortunately, he's closing at the end of this year. I mean, financially, shit has hit the fan for a lot of people. Really sad to see him go. He's been fantastic. I've been going kind of, especially since we moved into our new office. I've been trying to go like pretty much every week. He's been fantastic. All of the stuff that I end up ordering in, I've ordered through him because he is just willing to kind of grab stuff for me. And it's been great. I've got a lot of really good stuff like the old geezers and stuff like that. So really, I totally get it. I can't imagine what it must be like being a small business owner. Downtown Winnipeg, I don't know what downtowns are like in your city. I imagine they're relatively similar with the evolution of box stores and these little mini strip malls out in kind of like the suburbs. Our downtown is deteriorated dramatically over the past, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years kind of thing. He's been broken into a couple of times. It's just not really worth it for him anymore. So as much as I'm sad to see him go, because he's been kind of a staple here in town for quite a long time. And especially not having some place downtown, because we live kind of just outside of downtown, like pretty close to downtown ourselves where we are here. It's the closest comic shop for me, and especially, like I said, at the office, it's a 2-minute walk to it. So it's sad to see him go, but hopefully things succeed for him in whatever else he decides to kind of change into there. It's a hell of a business. I can't imagine it's easy owning a comic shop. Forget COVID, just having something like that is got to be difficult. So yeah, sad to see him go, but in the meantime, I'll keep going the rest of the year, and he will eventually sell stuff off. So he was telling me today, if you bring in some cash, I'm sure we can do some deals. He's got a lot of good hardcovers and things on the shelf. He's got a pretty good selection of Fantagraphics stuff. I don't have it downstairs with me today. I picked up a Donald Duck from Carl Barks from the Fantagraphics line, one of the hardcovers. I thought it would be really great for me and my daughter to sit and read. I used to read the Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge stuff growing up, so I think it would be a lot of fun. This is the first one I've bought from that Fantagraphics line of hardcover collections. We had a couple of the Don Rosa books as well, too, the Uncle Scrooge stuff. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe I dip into some of that stuff. He doesn't have many of them, but we'll see kind of how he goes the rest of the year. I'd like to kind of help him out in any way and maybe pick up some books that I've kind of eyeballed on his shelves for quite a while now. So yeah, so that's it for me. Thanks very much for hanging out, loading the cannon, Sleepy Reader. Nice to see you both, and the rest of you, we'll talk to you later.